Hello everyone. So I hope you all are doing well, and so in the coming up videos we will be working with source code review and exploitation of the vulnerabilities found during the source code review of the applications. So it will be basically a white box approach to find and exploit vulnerabilities. But before we do that, it is necessary that we have a proper environment to play with the code we are inspecting. So this is the task for us today. What we will be doing is we will set up a PHP development environment along with the necessary tools and debugger. I have already installed all of them in my machine. So this is the development machine that you see over here. But anyways, I will walk you all through the procedure that I have followed for for the setup. So let's get started. So first thing, I have installed Ubuntu machine in the VMware itself, and let's start with installing the list of softwares and configuring them as per our requirement. So the first thing that we will be installing is the Apache web server software. You can install it using sudo apt install Apache 2. I have already installed it, so it will show something like this. So once we have installed Apache, we will install a version of PHP. So the version of my choice here was 8.1. You can install the same using this following command. But already I have it installed. And once we have installed the PHP, we will install the composer software. Again, I will have this installed. So now that we have installed composer as well, what we need to do is to check if the Apache is properly working, Apache web server software. To do that, what we can do is visit the localhost page, and if you see a page like this, that means your Apache web server is working properly. But what you will see is if you try to write any files in okay, so before we come to that, all the files that are being stored in var www html will be displayed in the web server itself. So here if you see the index.html, it is the Apache default page that you see over here, and by default if you try to write any files into this directory, you will get some errors. To solve those errors, what you will need to do is you will need to give your user permissions of this specific folder. To do that, you can use the following command. So here will be the name of the user. So in my case it is dev. You can see this is the username that you will be working with, and also the group. This is the user, this is the group, belongs to the same group, and we will mention the location of the folder. So this command will set the necessary permissions to your user to work in this folder. As I have already completed this process, we will move on. So next step what we need to do is we need to add the user to the Apache web server. To do that, what we can do is we will need to make changes in the apache2.conf file, and it is located at /etc/ apache2.conf. We will need to mention a text editor to open this file. Once you have opened this file, you can find these lines and add the following two entries in this file itself. So here will be the user group followed by the username. In my case it is dev, so I have added the same. Once we have updated this configuration file, save it and close. Once we have updated the configuration file, we will require to restart the Apache server. To do that, you can use the following command: sudo service apache2 restart, and it will restart. So the next step that we have is we will install a MySQL server. To do that, what you can do is use the following command: sudo apt install mysql server. So this command will install the MySQL server, and once you have installed it, you will need to set the root user and the password for the root user. So to do that, what you can do is use the following command: sudo mysql to uh, log into MySQL server using the root user. But in my case, what I have done is I have already configured a root password, so that is why I am not able to log in directly. But in your case, you will be able to log in directly, and once you log in, you will see a console like the following. So a following console you will see once you have entered this sudo mysql command. So once you have entered the command, what you will need to do is create a root password so that you will be able to access the database with root privileges. To do that, you can use the following command: alter user root @localhost identified with MySQL native password by, and you can mention the password here. Okay, so once you have entered this command, your root password will be set, and after that you need to use the flush privileges command to have it implemented. So running this command will reflect the changes that you have made, and we can move on to the next step. So next step, what we will do is we will install Visual Studio Code so that we are able to work with uh, the code in the code editor. To do that, we can visit the following website: code.visualstudio.com/download, and download this deb file. Okay, once you have downloaded this file, It will be in the downloads, something like this, and you have to open with other application and software install, and then you can install this deb file in your Ubuntu machine and access the same from the app menu. Once you have installed, you can click on it to open the Visual Studio Code, and you will also need to install a few extensions. So as of now, I have installed PHP debug extension. So before we install it here, or anyways, after installing this PHP debug in the VS Code, we will also need to install the same in through terminal. So what you can do is you can use the following command: sudo apt install php hyphen xdebug. So this command will install xdebug in your computer, in your Linux machine, and the next step that we have to do is configure this xdebug uh, in the configuration file to enable it. So the configuration file in our case will be located at, again we will use text editor to edit this file, etc php 8.1 mods available xdebug.ini. So in this xdebug.ini file, you will need to mention the remote host, that is the local host, and the remote port as well. Along with that, you can mention all these other options. I will paste these other options in the description of the video, so you can just copy paste from there and save it. Once you have saved it, close and restart the Apache server. Once you have restarted it, you can check if it is working properly. To do that, what you will need to do is you will need to create a sample PHP file. So to do that, let me walk you through how I have done it. So here I have created one project called project1 using this command. If you see, there is the project1, and okay, before moving on to the project, we will also install phpmyadmin. So should have mentioned it previously, but anyways, to install phpmyadmin, so what is phpmyadmin is a web-based database management software. So you can visit, you can just search download phpmyadmin, and from the first link just download it. Once you have downloaded it, just extract it to a folder, and once you have extracted it, copy this folder to the var www html location. So in my case, I have already pasted it over here and also renamed the folder to phpmyadmin, and that's about it. So once you have pasted the folder there, you can access the phpmyadmin using the following URL, and it will prompt you for a username and password. So if you remember, during our previous steps, we had configured the root password using the alter user command in MySQL. Use the same username, that is root, and the same password that you have set, and once you click on login, you will be able to manage the database from here and view all the tables and databases that you have created or the application is using. So coming back to the Visual Studio and setting up the debugger for our application. So here we create a folder called project1. Let's change the directory to the project1, and to open VS Code in the directory we will use the following command, and then you can write a sample PHP file like this to check uh, if the file is actually working and the debugger is working. So let's open the browser. Here we have localhost project1, and as you can see, this is working fine. As you see, I have set breakpoints here, but they are not being hit, and the code is executing without the breakpoints. So to start using the debugger, what you have to do is click run and debug, and here you will see one more option to create a JSON file, for the PHP. And once you click that file, a file similar to this will be automatically created for you. So once that file is created, you just need to note what port number it is. It's 9003, and it will be most probably 9003. And what it is doing is it is listening for debug information on this port. If you remember, in the previous debug configuration file also we had mentioned the same port, and you will need to mention the same port or verify if the same port is being used in the JSON configuration file as well, launch.json file as well. So once that file is created, you can start listening for xdebug connections. Okay, once you see this menu over here, you can know that the debugger is listening for connections. And if we again refresh the page, we can see that the breakpoints are not being hit. So in this case, what you need to do is you need to mention the following parameter: xdebug session start is equal to 1. Once you do that, you will be able to see that the debugger breakpoints are being hit. If you see, we can step over and it will execute this line and move on to the next line. And again, if we step over the same, both of them will be executed and the page will load successfully. If you see, the page has loaded successfully. So what this does is it will set a cookie with the xdebug value, so that our debugger knows that it has to debug the application. So if you see, xdebug session 1, so this is the value that has been set. That is why we are able to debug this file itself. So if you don't want to do this, what you can do is you can also install a Firefox or Chrome extension for xdebug. So you can use this extension, you can add it to Firefox, and something like this will appear on your Firefox. So using this option, what you can do is you can disable profile or start debugging. To start debugging, you just have to click over here and the button will turn green. And even if you remove this, if you see, the breakpoint is being hit. Let us continue the execution, and as you can see, we are able to debug the PHP code. So alright guys, we are done with setting up the development environment, and that will be it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you have any feedback or if you have any issues or errors while having the environment setup, or if you want to suggest some more tools or utilities that we should install in the development environment, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.